Hey, y'all. It's so good to be with you on a Thursday. I know I typically am not, but I am so excited about my latest book, Dangerous Indifference, that I just thought it'd be important to show up and talk a little bit about one of the stories in the book. The subtitle of Dangerous Indifference is The Case for Culturally Responsive Leadership. And one of the challenges that we are always faced with when we use the word culture or cultural is that people think of culture from a race standpoint. And what we did in this book was kind of unpack all the different ways that culture shows up, from the flags that we fly, to the foods that we eat, to the ways in which we take vacation or don't, and how that changes based on where we live, how we were raised, and what we believe. And there's one story in particular in chapter 5, which is called Stumbling Blocks, where I talk about how poverty impacts how things show up for you from a cultural standpoint. And feel free to click like, click share, ask questions that I'm happy to answer. If you are interested in a free copy of this book, please reach out to us via info@livelyparadox.com, and we are happy to provide you with one. We know things are hard out here in these streets. But one year we were at a manufacturing facility, and I don't even need to read the story because it still stands out to me so well. But we noticed when we were driving up that there was an awful lot of visitor parking spaces. And this is a manufacturing facility. So vast parking, lots of employees clearly parked in the employee spot, but in the visitor spot, no one there. And there were at least 24, 30 spots for visitors. So many that it was a really long walk to the door as we walked past all these open visitor spots. Well, when we got into the training session, we overheard a conversation, and the conversation was going something like this. I just can't believe that she keeps parking in the visitor spots. So we had to have her car towed. And so I did ask a question. I was curious. I said, whose car did you have towed? And they said that it was a line worker's car who was towed. And I said, well, are there enough spots? And one of the leaders said, yes, there are enough spots. And so that's an example of being culturally unaware, because he didn't even know that they had changed a policy that made it such that there weren't enough spots. So the second manager who was standing right there, and I think he was a director, he said, actually, when we decided that we were going to overlap the shifts, meaning that when the third shift was leaving, the first shift was coming, and there was like a 15-minute overlap for these two groups. And they did that overlap for really good reasons, so that there could be communication between shifts. But here's the thing. During that overlap, there were not enough spots. They were short 7 or 8 spots. And so manager 1 then goes, well, she needs to get here earlier. That's what we would call cultural destructiveness. So it's a problem. And even though it's a problem, you're not going to do anything about it. And in fact, still penalize people. That's cultural destruction. And here's what's interesting as well. So the managers had 2 things. 1, special spots where they could park, or 2, the ability to adjust their schedule so that they could come later when there were more spots opened up. The line workers don't have that, right? They have to be there when their shift starts a little bit before, or else they're going to be late. So long story short, I and just asked a few more questions and found out that this particular woman had been just getting to work on time. But by the time she gets there, there's no more spots. And so she parked in the visitor spot so that she could get to her manufacturing facility, her spot, on time. Then at break, once more spots opened up, she would move her car to park in a regular spot. And the first manager he also said aloud, he said, well, she should get here earlier. And when I asked him, what would that mean if she got there earlier? He just kind of had a blank face. And I said, then that means that somebody else wouldn't have a spot, right? So someone else would have to park in the visitor spot. So they then towed her car. And what we're talking about is dangerous indifference. If you're new here, please click like, click share, ask whatever questions you want to ask about the case for culturally responsive leadership. So what happened was It was $250 when you sent someone's car to the tow lot. And so that represented like a day and a half worth of pay for her. And so this is where poverty can cause you to lose your job. So a few things are true. She cannot leave to go get her car, because if she does, now she didn't put in vacation or ask for leave in advance. So then that counts as a knock against her record. And when she has that knock against her record, now she's not going to get her bonus. If she waits until after work to go, then the tow lot could potentially be closed. And if it takes another day to get it done, the tow lot is adding an extra $100 onto her bill every day that her car is in the tow lot. So what she did was she decided she was going to leave to go get her car in the tow lot because she didn't want to have to pay $350 the next day. So then what did that do? Then she got written up. So that's where we come into this conversation. So I asked the plant manager, I explained all of this to him. And then I said, here's what I need you to do. I need you to pay to get her car out of the tow lot. And I also need you to make these tardies on her record go away. And I explained that the rules, while well-intended, are not working for people who are poor. And so for this particular plant manager deciding that he was going to pay $250, I asked for him to be on tonight. And I don't know what happened. He's not here. Hopefully he's not embarrassed by this, because I think this is a really good example of how the culture of wealth there can be such a big gap between understanding that sometimes people don't always know how to show up in ways that are culturally responsive. So he did pay to get her car out of the tow lot. That represented maybe a night out drinking with him and his friends. But let's imagine that she did not have that kind of support. She could have lost her job just because she parked in the wrong spot. And here's how. If you don't have $250, like a day and a half worth of salary on a Wednesday, you certainly aren't going to have $350 on a Thursday. And so what then happens is now her car is stuck in that tow lot. And every day that it's there, the bill is just getting larger and larger. The manufacturing facility was not on a bus route. So therefore, there was no additional way for her to get to work unless she Ubered or Lyft or used a cab or had a friend or somebody bring her, which is an extra financial burden to be able to get to work. And so then if she misses a day, you miss 3 days, you get written up. You miss a fourth day, now you are, on probation. And then once you're on probation, any situation that comes up, now you have lost your job. Legitimately parking in a visitor spot. And remember, I told you that there were 24 to 30 open spots there. And a parking attendant deciding that, she's just not following the rules, like following the rules to the T, that I'm going to tow her car, she could have ultimately lost her job. And she was on her way to losing her job. And we just happened to be there. Now, I don't consider myself to be a savior, but what I have done in Dangerous Indifference is try to break down all the different ways that culture can show up. And if leaders are not aware of these things, how they can help to reinforce a system that is just designed to help the exact same people all the time. Now, what I'm proud about with this particular manufacturing facility is that since then they have partnered with Lyft, so that if an employee has an issue, because if you have ever experienced poverty, there are many reasons why you might be late to work or miss work. But they have partnered with Lyft to be able to offer a lowered amount for their employees, because they have a large enough spend that would be beneficial to both organizations. They also started a van pool so that people who lived much farther away from the plant could get together. The organization pays for the van, they pay for the gas, the maintenance, the insurance, everything. But the employees are the ones who organize where they can pick up and who's driving and when they're going to come and go. And you might think that that's an incredible amount of expense for an organization. And I will tell you that it is no less than $30,000 to hire a new employee, get them trained and up to speed. And so it is better to pay for a van, a carpool van, than it is to use that money trying to attract new talent. So I just wanted to share that example and that story. It's one of the many examples that we share in the book, Dangerous Indifference, The Case for Culturally Responsive Leadership. If you are interested in a free copy I am offering free copies to anyone who reaches out to us on livelyparadox.info@livelyparadox.com just tonight. Because if you reach out to info@livelyparadox.com just tonight and you want a copy of my latest book, Dangerous Indifference, The Case for Culturally Responsive Leadership, written by myself and Dr. Ian Roberts, please let us know that you're interested in one. Otherwise, you can always purchase any of the products we have at livelyparadox.com. Thank you so much. And I just appreciate you being a part of this journey that we're on to create a more equitable, inclusive, and more just world than we found it. Have a good night.